My name is Simapolo, and the panel is set with Dr. Jedad Werehe Wanzala back in action after a week away. And Richard Baguma also is already in the studios, but we have a privilege again to have Charity Ahimsibwe in the studios. Welcome to the show. Like I said, it's been a very, very busy week. We congratulate those graduates who made it from Makerere University, Uganda's prestigious higher institution of learning. More than 13,000 graduates were awarded degrees, PhDs, and in the 73rd graduation of Makerere University. Congratulations, and congratulations once again. But when we can also look at the big stories across the region and beyond, the devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Turkey, in southern Turkey and Syria, the death toll has been now set to more than 45,000. 45,000. And it includes juveniles. I saw a report of a survivor who was found after 278 hours. Rescue efforts are still ongoing, and it now brings a question here in Uganda: what if anything happens, something like that? Are we ready to I mean, do we have capacity to handle such a catastrophe? Anyway, those are the some of the eye openers possibly that may tell us what we may be planning and all that. But we also received news that one Ugandan died in southern Turkey. Florence Babiri was among the victims of the earthquake, and 2 others were injured. That was a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that we received, that was issued this week. But if we come back to Parliament, this week we received also reports that a report from the Select Committee has implicated the Minister for Gender and Labour, Betty Among, to have had a hand in allegations of misconduct at and mismanagement at the NSF, the National Social Security Fund. And the report also recommends, which has not been tabled to Parliament, recommends that the minister should also be censured. We wait. We have the latest victim in the names of Honorable Persis Namuganza. We don't know what possibly will happen that side. Betty Among is implicated in authorizing payments, maybe that were inappropriate, but we'll also have time to look at that report when it is tabled in Parliament. Well, we can now look at the big story, the release. It's a temporary release that was granted to the 2 opposition MPs, Honorable Alan Sewanya Namachindi West and Honorable Segirinya Muhammad Kawempe North, were this week granted bail by High Court in Masaka after spending more than 17 months in prison. And that will be our main topic for discussion, especially after now the controversy that is shrouding the whole the whole story, especially after newspapers reported that there were backdoor negotiations between the opposition and government, resulting into their release. Let me introduce my panel, but we can't forget that we celebrated or commemorated Janani Luwum Day this week. The former Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, who was murdered in 1977, and it is said it is the President Idi Amin's orders that resulted into his death, together with 2 others, Nayo Oriema and both of Fumbi, all died that day. And he is credited to have been that religious leader who spoke to power and I saw a message from the Katikkiro of Buganda saying that possibly we don't have a reason to celebrate Janan Luwum when exactly the things or the events that were happening around that time when he was killed are actually happening today. But let me introduce Richard Baguma, a communication specialist, an advocate for proper nutrition. Welcome to the panel. It's always a privilege to have you in that seat.
It's also a privilege for me to be here. Apollo, thank you very much. As always, I say God is great, God is merciful, God is powerful. It's because of that we are here. We also want to thank the viewers who journey with us every Saturday. And those also who meet us outside and remind us that they see us. Yeah, I met one lady and she was with a group.
Oh.
And then she came. She started laughing and then she came. And then she said, I know you. I said, from where? She said, from Salt TV. I said, what do you know of me?
Wow.
And she says, those things you said, do you always believe them? So, and the panelists, today I have my sparring partner, Charity. Very nice to have her here. And for you, Daktari Werike.
All right, thank you so much. And Charity Msiwe, it's a pleasure having you on the show this morning.
Happy to be back here. Exciting, of course, to find Dr. Weri here and to find Richard here.
I wanted to compliment you on air about your hairstyle and say when
now Richard has started digressing.
Richard, she's married with a stamp.
that is why I'm complimenting the husband.
The husband has no say in the hairstyle. This is an emancipated woman. That man has no say in the hairstyle. He also just sees what has come anyway. So it's exciting to be back on the air, and good that we are coming to reflect on Janan Luwum Day. I'm happy to meet Wanzala and to meet Richard. I have taken some time without meeting them here, but also the viewers out there. It's a great Saturday. It is a great time to think through these things.
It's hot outside.
Yeah, which is good.
Okay.
We drink more water when it's hot.
All right. Charity is the executive director for Electoral Laws Institute, and she is a human rights activist. Thank you so much for being part of this program today. And David, Dr. Gerard Were Wanzala is a man from Namisindwa, the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on parliament and other government bodies. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Apol. Sorry for missing last week. Good morning, viewers. Always a pleasure to be here. Apologies for missing out. I know you are used to this program. Sometimes we receive that feedback when we don't attend. But it's good. We're here. God is good. Richard, happy to see you again, and my neighbor Charity. But don't quarrel like Bachiga today.
It's only natural for me to quarrel with Richard.
And gentlemen and the lady, let's quickly go through the big stories of the week. If Gerard, you have any. I pointed out the earthquake in Turkey. 45,000, more than actually 45,000 people have been reported dead. Rescue efforts are still going on. I don't know if you can pick another topic or make a comment and then we move on.
Actually, on the earthquake, only sympathies to the families, but nothing much really to say. Because however much you are prepared, that magnitude of the earthquake, the response cannot be that easy. So we really thank those who have supported from different parts of the world. It shows you that when it comes to such moments, the world somehow becomes united. For me, the other story that is very bad, you know, Namisindwa is my home. We have this story of the minister for Karamoja Affairs. She also happens to be actually my sister-in-law. And the reports of disappearing
iron sheets.
It's really unfortunate because on our forum for Namisindwa, people are really divided. There are those who say that they gave our daughters empty ministry, so they have to steal iron sheets and rice and bring for us, while others have juicy ministries. Then there are those who say corruption is corruption. If we must fight corruption, let's not bring in the issues of tribe, the issues of district, because someone doesn't steal on behalf of all of us. But if it happened, it's really unfortunate and embarrassing. And I can assure you, in Kamuli there was a minister who used to, who was a minister of state for Karamoja affairs. During his tenure, the rice meant for Karamoja was very common in Kamuli at burials. Actually, it was being donated. So basically, I think diversion of Karamoja aid has been ongoing. There are some officers, very high rank now, who are quiet because of this park, because they cannot say anything. Because if you go their districts also, you'll find. Yes, you'll find those iron sheets, you'll find rice, you'll find the posho. It goes inside and makes a U-turn. So it's really unfortunate.
We may need a select committee to probe that. I don't know if it works anyway. Charity, any big story in this week?
I think I want to stick with the earthquake. And why do I want to stick with the earthquake? Because Apollo, there is what we are calling climate change. And it's a big thing. The UN has now said it is climate rights, that it is going to become a right for everyone to demand that you need a clean environment.
Yeah.
Actually, Article 39 of our Constitution also provides for a clean and healthy environment. We can start there if we want, for Uganda's case. But internationally, we have seen the air changing, the weather patterns changing. They're changing for them, but they're also changing for us. And I think that one of the things that shocked them is that they didn't see this earthquake come. All those silts had been happening for a long time. Of course, that's a natural disaster. But for those disasters, they will not go away. With every change in weather, more of them will come, and we're going to see them in many parts of the world. It is said that 4,000 or 45,000, thereabout. That's a big, big number. And not just in Turkey, but also the neighboring countries.
Yeah, Syria.
Yes, Syria is also affected. So when you see those numbers, it is bad for the globe, but it also says one thing, that all of us need to be alert to natural disasters. We need to put in place mechanisms that we know can work for us at country and international level. For us, we always have the mudslides and the cracks in Bugisu, in his place. And Sobududa is known for that. People normally get buried in there. We have even the famous picture of the child who was moved by the mudslide and she survived. So we should not look at Turkey as a distant story. We should look at Turkey as a story to prepare for our own possibilities of disasters. Every time it happens in Uganda, we say a disaster has occurred, like we don't have a Ministry of Disaster Preparedness. And then I think the other big story is NSSF. Now that one is so annoying. 330 billion spent in air flights to Dubai. Taking how many members of the NSSF just to go to have holiday, my friend, at the cost of us who save our Kalito money. I tell you don't want to be a saver of NSSF. It feels bad when you say you have a small account in NSSF. For me, my advice to government is a straight one. And I have said it, I've tweeted it, I have said it consistently. One, Asman Abasalirwa and other MPs have been saying it was a mistake to give people midterm access. I want to insist it was a very good move. And I want to again retaliate that you should even give people who have 50 million with that account, give them their money to go and invest. Because then there will be SME boom in Uganda. If I get 50 million today, I know what I want to use it for. I will be able to support so many people. And so many will be employed. 13,000 came out of the university, you said? And they're all on the street looking for jobs.
True.
Hey, some of those would be employed by me if I got my 50 million. But that is me. How about if we multiplied the people who are with NSSF who have 50 million? If there could be about 1,000 people, 2,000, other than spend it on air flights and lunch, I saw a bill for lunch for 1 year, an annual budget. Impossible to believe. How do you do that? 340 billion, what are you eating? Even if you went for a plate of food of 100,000, what are you eating? How many people are you? You know, so NSSF is a very annoying story. Very, very annoying
Are we
story.
likely to see another process to censure minister?
I don't know whether censuring ministers resolves the actual problem. And I was happy about the journalists who said, thank you for censoring Namganza. All the problems in Uganda have been solved. Because now even corruption has gone. I was very happy with those journalists.
Sarcastically.
It was a very sarcastic statement, but they made a very great statement. Did it end?
No.
Did all the problems go?
Not really.
So if we censor among it, will they go?
Okay, Richard Baguma, give it a shot.
No, for me, my story that I'm looking at is the leaders are in Addis Ababa now, the African leaders. They are discussing free trade.
DRC.
Yeah, free trade, really. Security and free trade. DRC, yes, the other African countries that were chased because of coups, their ministers have gone there. But for me, is the attempt by the African leaders to have more open borders. I think that this continent is just, I don't know what, it's an enemy to itself.
Oh, yeah.
I think this continent is an enemy to itself. We can't keep talking about the 1884 Berlin divisions that were imposed on us.
The partition and...
They are very important. I always tell people that, you see, sometimes you have squints because your great-grandfather had squints. Your grandfather and father didn't have.
Yeah.
But you come out with squints, or your child, and you are blaming your husband when really it came from your DNA. You are blaming your wife for that matter. So we need to correct those distortions. And if we can start with trade, why not? I was talking to somebody the other day, going to South Africa. I didn't have the experience of being disturbed. But you know the things they have asked for a visit to South Africa. This is a senior, very senior person. Just their bank statement should give the
Just
South African embassy, yeah, the comfort that they have. No, they don't want to go there for Cheyo, surely. But so it is ridiculous.
So African states should...
We are just enemies of ourselves. So I think the attempts have been there. I think now 10 countries have subscribed. But why? Why don't we have 50 countries in this continent? Just open skies, you know. Don't tell the people of the brothers, yes, the brothers of Dr. Weriki that they are going to see their brothers in Kenya, and then you criminalize them. Really. So for me, those are so that's the story I am keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
And I am hoping that we can have a bit more sobriety amongst our very drunk leaders, people drunk with power and privilege. Yeah.
All right, viewers, from the big stories, let's go straight to our topics for discussion. Like I said, we commemorated Janan Lumu Day this week. And I said Janan Lumu, the late Archbishop and the former Archbishop, is credited for speaking to power. Now, Charity, I will give you the first shot. What do you think? And there are different theories about his death. Others think that well, Idi Amin, the circumstances at that time were so rough, and Amin had to do that because there were rebels, and possibly the Archbishop may have been influenced, and I don't know, and try to also bring it to what is happening today as we commemorate Janan Lumu Day.
Now, I think for Janan Lumu, first, I'm happy that the government decided that every 16th day of February, we commemorate this day of Janan Lumu. It's been 46 years, like you know, and since he died, or since he was killed. but we've only commemorated it from 2016, which then makes it about how many years? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20,
There are a few
22,
years.
about 6 or 7 years. Janan had something he spoke for in our historical perspective. And the things he spoke for, like Charles Peter Mayiga was saying, have not gone away. Charles Peter Mayiga is the Katikkiro of Buganda. They haven't gone away. But that's because from a historical perspective, you just don't wish away problems from a country. You must work consecutively at those problems. Janan Luwum's statue had already been erected at Westminster Abbey, and the British, for them, they recognized him as a powerful archbishop in the UK. So if the British were recognizing him, why were we ourselves as Ugandans denying him? So we can use him as a tourist attraction. We can use his story as something to remind us of what happened in the historical perspective of 1977 and Amin's government. Amin's time of governance was a period of terror, and at the time the Archbishop called or said the words he did when he wrote to Idi Amin, the pastoral letter, about 1,000 people had been killed in about 2-3 days. And his rule, Idi Amin's rule, they say about 500,000 Ugandans died. Some of them just disappear, some of them extrajudicial, some, you know, now, yes, people disappear. People are arrested and you don't know where they've gone, but people tweet. Also, the era is different. People tweet and say, so-and-so was arrested, we don't know where they are. And then people start having conversations saying, produce our person. This so-and-so is missing, this one is here, and there's a documentary of what is happening. They put pressure on state operatives. They say, no, this person. And sometimes the state produces the people. Sometimes they delay with the people, but eventually they bring them where? To court. So yes, there is, the issues still exist, and they are big and immense, like we're going to see, but the rate does not seem like what it was in 1977. Secondly, to say that the day should therefore not be commemorated at all is not true. It is unfortunate for us to pull for that position. Why? Because we can use it as a springboard to advance the need for betterment of our society. We can use it as a springboard to reflect on the past, on the present, and on the future. So we saw what happened during the time of Janan Luwum. Janan wanted justice for everyone. Janan was against extrajudicial killings. Janan hated torture of Ugandans. And because of standing for torture, today our constitution, Article 44, clearly states that torture is prohibited. It should never happen to anyone. It's one of the non-derogable rights. It is a guaranteed right that if you came to court and only proved that you were tortured, that case is instantly dismissed. It means it cannot stand on its own. It has no merit. That came from a history of people who stood against torture, and one of them being Janan Luwum. And so when we commemorate him, we remember what he stood for, and we are reminded for what we have in our books of law, and we can demand based on the books of law. Yes, right now we have people who have been flat ironed. We've just seen a man who was displayed.
Mwesigwa Eric.
Mwesigwa Eric, and his body was flat ironed, and there's a proper claim that it is security operatives. That is a claim coming from Mwesigwa and people who are there. But the security operatives are also coming out and saying,
They don't have any record.
that we have moved around all prisons to look for where he was. We don't have evidence. But then the question is, the man is crying, and the man is saying he was tortured. So who tortured him? Is it his relatives? Is it, there must have been a force that tortured him. This man could not have woken up and just picked a flat iron himself. What is it then? How much of lies can you tell? How far can you go with telling a lie? So there must be justice, and this justice must be seen to be done. Whoever has done this act of torture to that extent should be brought to book.
Yeah, true.
Whether they are a state operative, whether they are military persons, whether they must be brought to book, because this is going to affect posterity. And I look to the government and I insist that these things should not be rubbed under the carpet. They should not try to even defend torture.
Charity, this is not the first incident.
It's not.
You remember, is it Maseleka from Kasese, gentleman who came,
Yes, who couldn't walk.
Who couldn't walk, who could only be assisted to walk. And I don't, I mean, I don't know if you expect anything to change anyway.
You know, the fact that those documentaries are there is a documented evidence of Maseruka. There is now a documented evidence of Mwesigwa. There is documented evidence that is going to continue being there. As these documentations go on, we have peer review. Yes, UN Office of Human Rights may be out of Uganda. Government might have said you're no longer needed and you're not here. But when government goes for peer review at the UN, they will be asked these very same questions. And remember, you don't even need Ugandans themselves to document and send them. Those people have operatives here who work with government. Government is in bed with the donors. They are their partners. So they are here. They will pick the information for themselves.
Yeah.
They will document it and they will send it. We don't need the UN office alone.
All
and
right.
we don't need human rights defenders alone.
Thank you. Let me cross quickly to Dr. Gerard Wanzala. And you must have looked at that picture of Eric Mwesigwa with blisters alleged of hot iron wrapped on his chest. It coincides with Janan Rum's day. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Actually, it's a very big contradiction. On one side, you are praising someone I could actually call one of the most known human rights champions in Uganda. I was reading about Janan Rum some time back, and apart from him being honored and recognized at the Westminster, his portrait or statues lie in Australia, in New Zealand, yes, and Brazil. They're honored by all those countries. And what did he stand for? The courage to speak up the government of the day. Today, many religious people have given up. Our bishops, at their consecrations, they are given a pajero, mpekoni, and a key. So once the key is handed, the rest of the business is about going to church and collecting money. But speaking about these issues is a problem. In fact,
I saw that cartoon for religious leaders burying their head in the
exactly. And in fact, some of them have gone to the extent of using their influence to confuse the followers on these issues. But you cannot run away from issues of human rights, because today you are happy, tomorrow it may be a regime change, and you are in another position. You are not in that privileged position. So who will you run to?
Okay.
So let's talk about these issues of torture generally. They have gone on increasing. There's a time when President Museveni documented that he doesn't want any Ugandan to be tortured.
Yeah, true.
And in fact, when he came from the bush, he established a commission of inquiry to investigate all previous human rights violations committed from the 70s and 80s. And there was a report presented. Now, from 2000 onwards, we are seeing these cases increasing. And I wouldn't believe that ordinary citizens would just give in maybe to their relatives to be tortured in order to portray bad image for the government. No. So at the end of the day, if a man like Mwesigwa appears with flat ironed chests, however much you pay Audrey Robogo a lot of money to go and promote Uganda, that picture alone is going to portray our government as a government that's not responsible on issues of human rights. I had, that time I was out of the country when the Kasese issue happened at the palace of the Rwenzururu Kingdom. It was all over the world.
Horrible.
Women undressed, then those who are roasted into ashes, the naked bodies of women and children. So people would imagine, even if you wanted to arrest, why can't you seal off the palace? Hunger alone will bring them out. And then you arrest them instead of, are these command errors? Is it a policy of the government of the day? So as we commemorate this day, we should avoid doing things that are contradictory to what Janan Luum stood for. And this to encourage actually religious leaders, cultural leaders, to speak about some of these things. Human rights is not about politics, it's about life of a human being. So,
Okay, Richard, we may blame religious leaders for not speaking, yes, but why are these things happening? I mean, there is the state, and it is implicated in all this. I saw the tweet from a spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense and UPDF, and it was like, no, we don't have any record of Mwesigwa Eric in any of our detention centers, and possibly he should go to the Uganda Human Rights Commission or go to police for help. Do you think that was enough?
Torture happens, torture happened, and torture is going to happen.
As simple as that.
That's how the world is. Is it cruel? Yes,
It's not happening everywhere.
Oh, tell me where it's not. Yeah. Just single out a place where it is not, and you tell me.
But it's not okay. It's not good.
Exactly.
It's bad. It's horrible.
You see, death happens. It's not good. It
What are you
does.
saying, Richard?
You see, what is crucial is when these things happen, what happens then? Yes, that's what is crucial, in my view. The greatest financier of human rights here, who gives everybody money, is generally the United States. But the greatest abuser of rights, also in my view, is the United States. Yeah. Its soldiers are exempt from the ICC and its government officials. So we run around here, ICC. So where you have contestations at home, torture will happen. The other day, my sister went home and said that night my cousin came with the blood through her nose and whatever, and in a night dress. She was being tortured by her husband, whom we gave to her, we gave to him very in a church ceremony. And there are all these kinds of forms of torture. See, I couldn't remember that Thursday was a public holiday. And a couple of people around me, so we were planning to go and work, and then somebody says, no, it's a public holiday. And then said, why? Oh, it's a Janani Room Day. And that's when I went reflecting. By the way, we don't know the true story. And you see, for me, that's where I start from. Is how come we have not had an inquest, an inquisition, to get the true story
About?
of what happened? You have varying stories of what happened. So first what happens is we know that rights abuses, I don't want even to say just rights abuses, that abuses happen, and they're happening all the time. At household level, on the streets, we are violated all the time, not just by government, even by people who take the law in their hands. And then we have the national, and then we have the international. The regional, we have Congo, for example, the eastern side here. I mean, sometimes, I don't know whether people get tired and they stop even talking about these gross abuses of people that happen. So Mwesigwa, it's called Mwesigwa, becomes symbolic. As symbolic as Janani is. Janani was not killed alone.
Yeah.
The others that died with him,
Very many.
we don't talk about them. No. And that's how we work. How we work in the international community, in the development world, in the NGO world, we have to pick a symbol that we run with, who will then put our case.
Yeah.
The others, I don't know whether it's a violation of their rights to be forgotten, but they get forgotten. And that's partly where, in my view, we miss the point. That's the first one. The second thing.
But before I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before we move on, I'm sure it is the role of governments. Even if we know that it is all over, human rights are abused and violated at all levels, it is the role of governments to ensure that there is harmony, there is no violation of people's rights.
That is not in debate.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. No one is debating. I don't know if anybody on this panel is debating that. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But how do governments work? How do governments do take their responsibility? Governments take their responsibility when they are pushed.
Exactly.
So when you say it's the role of government, there is also the role of me and you to push. If we neglect that role, the governments will not do their roles.
The irony is that it is now the state, the governments that are now implicated.
That's why we have to push. That is why Janan is remembered.
Exactly. We use his day.
That's precisely.
Okay.
Yes. So when we sit back and we say it's the role of government, government doesn't do its role, and then we complain. We also have. Now, how many of us are really willing to do the ultimate sacrifice of being a martyr? By the way, who cares if you die and they will remember you? Janan was an archbishop and he's being remembered. So we have to think about this. Let me tell you, Apollo. I keep saying that the population in this country has not reached the anger threshold. I keep saying that. We haven't reached the anger threshold.
Do we need to first reach there?
Because if we don't reach there, we don't push hard enough. We have how many pictures are we waiting for? Of you called them what? It was the first word I'm hearing. This word that they have been passed. What is the flat iron?
Iron flattened.
Iron flattened. It is my first time to hear the
Flat
phrase.
iron.
Flat iron.
Chests.
But how many of these photos?
It's really hot.
Yeah, how many of these photos have we seen surely over the years? Really. So our anger threshold has not reached, and these things are going to keep repeating here and elsewhere. The most critical tool that abusers use is fear. It's their most critical tool.
Correct.
What we are celebrating is that an individual called Luwum
Stood bold.
overcame that tool.
But
He paid the ultimate price.
Richard, I want to somehow disagree with you. We had those days of Ruum, the Ruumus. At that time, they stood up and even other groups stood up and said, no, it's enough. Do we need every time to go through the same cycle and
Yes, if the people who are
learn?
in positions of responsibility are also doing the same like the others were doing, then the medicine. If you have the same, if malaria keeps coming, what do you do? In fact, you get stronger. You move from chloroquine to coatem. So it means even for now, we have to be even more fearless than those guys were. Otherwise, for us to think that we shall have a 1 day of talking and then the flat ironing will stop is dreaming.
Okay. Charity, during Richard's submission, you've been always nodding and nodding.
I nodded for two reasons.
In approval, as if.
You know,
Do we need to go through the same cycle?
This Richard here is a crazy man.
Or we should learn from our mistakes and past events and possibly do better.
But who should learn? Only citizens or the leaders also?
Both.
I think he has made the fundamental. Why I nodded is because he said, look, governments know they have a responsibility. It is written in the books of law, like I was quoting. They know that is their creed. But except you remind them, they will not fulfill their
Haven't
account.
we done that enough?
You have done, but he's saying maybe you need to go a notch higher.
Okay.
Maybe you're doing it and you are afraid. The fundamental point which Richard made, which made me know the most, was who is willing to die like Janan Luwum? Who? At this point in time, who is going to stand up and say, I'm dying like Janan Luwum? Because he said there is no one. And he's right. The fastest ones who see the gun being pointed at them, they jump, they whimper for their life. None of them can stand and be a martyr like Janan Luwum. And he said, and where I noted again, the second node, was that until Ugandans understand that you have to fight the demon of fear by being bold, we're going to remain in the same cycle.
Gerard, Dr. Gerard.
Richard talked about the tool of fear. I totally agree with him, because fear has been used to suppress people's voices, so you don't raise your head. But there's also another tool that all regimes use in such circumstances, disinformation. They do such a thing, and then they will create an impression like if you hear these statements, we don't know, you go to Human Rights Commission. Let me tell you, I read the State of Blood by Henry Chamber, who was Minister of Health in the Idi Amin regime and was a right-hand man of Idi Amin. He notes that the Archbishop and then the two ministers, of both Ofumbi and Ernai Oriem, were arrested on the 16th, following the protest note that the Archbishop had written. And then the next day they were paraded. Actually, a rally was held in Kampala, where they were forced to read confessions and say, we confess we are dealing with Obote and others, and Museveni is to overthrow the government of Uganda. And then later, they pretended that they had got an accident on their way to the interrogation center. But Henry Chamber writes that as a Minister of Health, he got access to the post-mortem
And the bodies.
and the bodies. And the Archbishop was actually shot twice in the
Even
mouth,
the mouth.
and in the chest. Okay? And then the ministers were given one bullet each in the chest. One of them had another wound on the leg. So eventually, the accident was stage managed, and to portray that they actually had a crash when they were struggling to fight the driver, get out and escape. So this is what the regime was promoting. And misinformation. Now this information has never gone away. Has never gone away. Actually, it is growing. It's growing. I'm seeing right now in politics here, there is an intention to portray every politician around as either a muyaye. He say, he has eaten, and many times this information comes even from the ruling party to portray, and then you have citizens now losing trust in everyone. So now, which kind of context are we really creating? That we can't trust the leaders, we can't trust alternatives, we have disinformation, we don't respect human rights. I think the country will be pushed to the wall and will explode.
So you also agree with Richard that we have not gathered that critical mass and developed that level of anger where we can make things change?
Absolutely. Haven't you ever seen a situation where civilian citizens stand up and then those in power get threatened? There are those situations you have seen. People panic when they see people organized together. And so that's why I think when I follow events these days, we have criminalized the freedom to assemble, the freedom to peacefully protest. Even you are only 5 women walk around Kampala Road with placards, they are carried as if they are criminals who have stolen.
But you see, Dr. Werike,
that's all aimed at creating.
Why it is important, especially when it is women or children who protest. It is very important to stop them very, very quickly. Because women are the ones who are the most resilient and most absorbing of abuses. either at home or in the markets or wherever. Now, when they reach their threshold and come to the street, even when they come and do nothing, your reaction to them elicits condemnation and everything from elsewhere. So when you are an abuser, especially of public or general rights, you really fear that women or children must not be the ones who are angry.
Yeah. So
Because you can, once you touch them, then the whole world comes on you.
rise up.
And they take time to get angry. So when they do,
Which is worse.
you are finished.
Richard reminds
fine.
me of, before
Okay.
you come in, of two incidences actually, when he says that. The last years of Daniel Totich Arap Moi, he went to hold a rally at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. Women turned up and carried their clothes up, you know,
And he fled.
and he fled. Fled the event. Apa.
Of Apa.
You remember
About the
Apa?
conflict.
Yes.
And sadly, the minister lost his
Even
life.
even the Prime Minister yesterday ran from APA. It was same
Anyway,
place.
in just 1-2 minutes, Richard, the communication from the fund, Brigadier General Felix Koraiji, I asked you, is that enough? Because I think the state should take interest. I think it is Chache who said it. If somebody shows up anytime with the, you called it an iron
Flat iron chest.
chest. Shouldn't the state dig deep and bring clarity to the whole issue
idea.
in just 1 minute?
I find no problem with Brigadier General Kiraije's statement that we have checked and we have not found anything. The major problem I find is then the disinterest.
Yeah.
If indeed you know nothing about this, and the one who leads the opposition in the country makes an allegation. I saw another one who said that they powered something on the chest to show. The leader of opposition brings somebody and you are saying they are fake. It's your opportunity to expose the leader of opposition. How come you are not caring? You say, we don't know anything, and you stop there. So for me, that is why it is most suspicious. That as if you are in charge, you would be most vigorously investigating and exposing this fake person who is claiming to have been flat ironed by you. So the fact that you don't do anything about it tells, it is what we call a loud silence. Very loud silence.
That is it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, our viewers. And at this point, we'll be going for a break. And this is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo. We have Richard Baguma, a communication specialist and an advocate for proper nutrition. We have Charity Ahimsiwe, the executive director for Electoral Laws Institute, and she is also a human rights activist. We also have Dr. Gerard Wanzala, the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, and we go for a break. When we return, the legislators who have been in Chigo prison for more than 17 months were released, and it is temporary freedom because the High Court in Masaka granted them bail. This is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo, Richard Baguma, Dr. Gerard Wanzala and Charity Ahimsiwe are in the studios looking at issues of human rights, looking at issues of politics after that eventual release of opposition MPs this week. The High Court in Masaka granted bail to Honorable Alan Swanyana and Honorable Sigiri Nyamhamad after spending 524 days in prison. One or two issues we may discuss in this matter. One, we know that the head of state has been categorically clear on the issue of bail, especially for those capital offenses. He has publicly declared that he does not believe in bail. Well, I don't know if my panelists will look at that vis-a-vis the time they have spent in prison, and now what has happened is a twist of events in their case, and suddenly the state prosecutors say they are withdrawing their affidavits in blocking the bail applications for the two members of parliament. The Daily Monitor reported that there were insider negotiations between the top opposition politicians and the government. And we will also be looking at whether, in any way, in this particular case, is that appropriate anyway. And well, I don't know if the parents will want also to relate the issue of the Segrinyas and the issue we have just discussed, the General Umu and the matter of human rights. But Charity, you have the first shot. Tell us.
It's usually good to start at the conclusion, and I want to conclude by saying, one, torture is illegal according to our constitution, and it should not happen. So let's not try to shroud it in good English. Let's not try to put out statements that defend torture. Torture is torture, whether it's to the opposition, whether it is to government officials, whether it's to an ordinary citizen. Let's not perpetuate torture. That said, back to Alan Sewanyana and Segrinya and their release. That has been a very interesting story. The day they were released, Ugandans went on social media and said, but we don't see them, where are they? They've disappeared. Even the journalists themselves kept the public on tenterhooks. They kept saying, we don't see them, where are they? They've been released, they've been granted bail, non-cash bail, but we don't see them. And then of course, Dr. Wanzala has talked about misinformation and disinformation. There's information they've been told, shut up if you want to maintain your freedom. So we can't see them. And the opposition was saying, we've gone to their home, we don't find them. And Frank Beine, the head of prisons, was saying, they are not with us. So the question was, did they disappear into thin air? Where exactly were these MPs and what was exactly happening? The story was not adding up. In terms of negotiating with government, and before I get to negotiating with government, there is a legal process. This was a legal process. Legal processes do not require negotiation with government. If you're going to do arbitration, it is a whole process. It's also a legal process, but it's called arbitration. You step out of court and you do what we call arbitration, and everything is resolved.
Out of court settlement.
Out of court, it is called arbitration, that process. So you do arbitration and you go on until you've finished to the ultimate end. It also has its own structure that is followed. But this is a court process where people were being produced before court and their case presented before court, and then court makes its pronouncement on whether they get bail or not bail. And you started by saying the president doesn't believe in bail. I actually think that the president sometimes becomes just stubborn. But it's not necessarily true that he doesn't believe in bail. Why? Because he knows it is still there in the Constitution until he changes it. Bail is a constitutional right. He has challenged the judges to get rid of it, but they can't, because it would mean strike down that whole Article 28. And it would mean make that document, that constitution, a paper. Because Article 28 says that everyone is presumed innocent until proven
guilty.
So, and to prove you guilty is a very rigorous process. That is how murderers get off the hook. And then you say, but you saw the man murdering. Yes, he got off the hook because of the process that is involved in proving that he is a murderer. And before I studied the law, I thought, how do you let a murderer who you saw shoot, you even saw with your own eyes, CCTV has produced it, and now you let him go? But it's because there is a rigorous process. Now, if you say take out Article 28, you're actually tampering with the whole process. So you're also saying get rid of the Evidence Act, the whole of it, just destroy it. So you're saying the whole criminal procedure process in court, get rid of it. So you're saying then get rid of the whole court. That is what you're saying. When you touch bail, that is almost what you're doing. You're touching the gears of the car. So you're saying, okay, can we get rid of the drive and maybe we remain with the neutral and which one? And the brake. You're saying we are taking out some and we are remaining with that. Will it function well?
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. So that is what happens in this mix. That is why you can't talk about bail and say you're just going to scrape it and take it away. And so the process of Alan and the process of Segrinya was supposed to be a legal process. It was court which gave them bail, and if court has granted you bail, you're supposed to walk out and everybody sees you coming out. These stories of negotiate behind the door, what, they are not part of the legal process. That said, is it wrong?
Couldn't it have been fatigue? And I mean, you have been in prison for all these bad
2 years, and you don't want to talk to
yes,
anyone.
and
You just want to
you stay rigid.
You're also entitled to that. You're also entitled to that. What I wondered is, so where did the journalists get the story of it has been negotiations between the leader of opposition and government? But if there was negotiation for people to get justice and justice to be seen, because these people had been arrested for almost 2 years and they had not been tried in a proper court process. The law does not know that. The law knows that you're supposed to be arrested and then you're tried for the crime, for the crime for which you committed. That's what the law knows. The law doesn't know that you're arrested and kept there and forgotten about. So if we're a country that believes in the constitution, constitutionalism and the rule of law, then we should be able to follow our books of creed. But if we don't, here's what I ask. What was so wrong with dialoguing? Because we've been calling for dialogue. We call for dialogue between government and opposition actors when there is a stalemate. Because government, on the other hand, could not prove if it was actually Sewanyana and Segrinya who were part of the killings in Masaka.
They didn't table evidence.
They could not prove it. Now, if you can't prove it, then why would you go for the negotiations? But are negotiations bad in themselves? Is it bad for me, if I am opposition and I'm caught up, to negotiate with government who is powerful and has all the power? Is it bad?
What is your opinion?
So, if it is a legal process, we follow the legal process.
Okay.
If it is a dialogue, we follow a dialogue. If it is a negotiation, we go ahead with the negotiation. Can
they work concurrently?
No. It can only work concurrently if the court says, we have now stalled the legal process, it has gone into a negotiation. Or the court says, we have stalled the legal process in court, we have gone into arbitration. They have told you, therefore, get out of court, go and arbitrate this thing and finish it.
So if there were indeed negotiations, it was wrong?
It is wrong because it's like the arm of justice has been curtailed. So courts are useless. Why are they there? It means every crime we shall commit, we shall negotiate.
Okay.
If I kill, I'll go and negotiate with Richard. That, hello, I killed, but here I am. But also court has a window for that. Like, for example, Kanyamunyu, when he killed Akena, they gave him a window. He went to DPP's office and he said, look, I went to the family and I went through Matoput. I agreed I killed the man and the cultural people took me through the process. Now, please allow me to go off the hook. DPP said, no, this thing has been decided in court. You're guilty. You have to stay and serve your sentence. Then they said to him, we shall reduce the sentence because of the process you went through. Good. That is the window. You see the window which I am saying? So even if you take that process, there is a window that the legal framework provides. So they gave him that, and they allowed him also to make a request to them. He requested DPP to let his girlfriend off the hook and his brother. So the two of them came out. On the basis of he went for Matoput, he confessed, the people in Acholi forgave him, the family of Akena said, you're free to go. So the court also recognized that this had happened. So there is a window. But if the process is ongoing and court has not granted for that window, which we haven't seen in this case, then it is illegal.
It is illegal. Well, viewers, now it's time you can be part of this discussion. Our numbers will be running on the screen, and the number to use as you send in your messages is 0701 60 9906, and send those messages. Keep those messages coming in on the matters that are before the panel here. And Mviri Sospita says, I'm following the dialogue, but just one thing I noted about General Wumude is that there is nowhere torture, okay, and unexplained disappearances are talked about during the national celebrations. Did you pick that? I have actually seen a shift to homosexuality talk as a talk on that day. Thanks a lot. Mviri Sospita is watching, and keep those messages coming in. Dr. Jared Wazara.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think. I saw even the president of the national platform say he never endorsed negotiations, if at all there were negotiations.
Yeah, we have seen the monitor say there were negotiations, daily monitor. We see the law saying there were no negotiations like that, and actually instructed his lawyer to sue the monitor. And then I see Robert Chagulanyi, Bobi Wine saying, I was not privy to such, and as an institution, nope, we were not aware. If they took place, we shall find out. But for me, I'll look at this case. If this issue of butchering people in Masaka started much earlier, actually before these fellows were arrested, I think about 2-3 years back, before the arrest of these people, and I would look at it as a criminal case, murder.
Yes.
Uganda versus Sewanyana and who? And Segirinya. Now, in this case, the burden to prove is on the side of government.
It's the state.
And that's the responsibility for the office of the DPP to investigate and produce evidence in a timely manner in order to incriminate these two people. What we saw immediately after the arrest of these MPs, we saw pronouncements of the president saying he's going to scrap bail, and they should deny bail to the murderers, to the... So, at the end of the day, we would see courts grant bail, and the suspects are rearrested. Of course, it's not the first time we saw it with Besigye, with what, but it happened in this particular case a number of times, to the extent that the legal team got confused on what to do. So they gave up and reached an extent of saying, okay, if it has been denied, let's wait until after 6 months. Because after 6 months, there is a window for automatic bail. Again, it was fruitless. Now we started hearing information that the MPs in jail felt abandoned by their own party. And so we saw people like Honorable Abedi Bwanika coming up and saying, let's negotiate. Other voices were saying, we negotiate for what? Are they guilty? So we saw two camps emerging within the no. Exactly. Said, you are going to negotiate. Is it the president? Are they personal prisoners of the president? Or they are prisoners of the judicial system of Uganda? So in case negotiations took place outside these court processes, then there is something very wrong for our judiciary, because it means there are forces that are greater than the institutions of government. And this is a cause to worry. Tomorrow, if you don't have someone to negotiate for you, what are you going to do? Okay? What are you going to do? Now, I don't know whether it was a coincidence, but when opening the law year on 3rd February, I saw the Honorable Chief Justice, I don't know whether it was a coincidence, speaking with a lot of vigor about this case, saying, if the state cannot produce evidence, we're going to handle this. We cannot allow the judiciary to be used as promoters of injustice.
Correct.
So within a very short time, things moved so fast. And then we saw the the DPP withdrawing the affidavits, you know, and releasing these people. And I think what I heard was that the Honorable Sewanyana was not at home but had been taken to the mother's place in Masulita. I also heard that the other one is at the mother's place in Mengo. I don't know what is it with the mothers that, that
The mothers had been demanding for their release.
What do you read from that?
I become suspicious. But of course, this is not to say that, you know, the pain at the end of the day when you're in jail, the pain alone. I can just imagine what Sewanyana went through when he was in Mulago recently. His life was almost going. So there is some kind of trauma. As much as Richard said, Bobby Wine may need counseling because of these torture pigs that presenting to him. These MPs also need counseling. Yeah, they need real counseling. Because if they are now running to mothers to hide, they are not able to show themselves to the public, then there's a problem.
There is a problem. And Jared, there was that school of thought when they were denied bail, that this could be a political case. Not really. I don't know what the opposite is. That this is a political case. Yeah, I am trying to find a reason for negotiations. Possibly, could it finally have been found out that this is a political case, and the only way to settle it is through political negotiations? Because even Norbert Mao, when he was appointed minister, he said, "It's time. I will negotiate, and I will be part of the negotiations to ensure these two incidents."
Could he be the one that the monitor is referring to as a top executive of government? But because they say
the monitor talks about even the Speaker of Parliament and
the Deputy Speaker. But they also mention, you know, a top executive of government who we don't know. Anyway, I would not conclude that it's a political case, but since it involves politicians, and these are high-profile politicians, I mean, so it makes it political in one or the other. And the fact that we have been seeing the state failing, they bring witnesses who are contradicting from time to time. Some saying, "I have never met so and so, I have been forced, you know, to do," and they deny what they said. So it shows that maybe there's no clear evidence.
And I think just to substantiate, because I don't want us to lose the fact that if it is a legal process, let's keep it legal. You do something to the institution when you weaken it. And that's why the Chief Justice said what he's telling you. He said that we cannot be seen to promote injustice. Why does the judiciary exist, and why is there a judicial system, and why are there laws? That we follow them. They are there to be referees when there is an impasse, whether it is a political case, ex parte matovu, and the issues of that minister Kiria and minister, his name always jumps out, the historical minister who was locked up and he took his case to the East African court. All those were political cases of 1966. But those political cases were resolved by the courts of law. And that is how we get the writ of habeas corpus being put within our laws.
Not backdoor negotiation.
Yes. The reason these things are done like that, whether they are political, once it gets into court, let's go through the due process of court and see, are these people guilty, not guilty? That is why there is all this process called admissibility. What can we accept as court? Is this true or it's not true evidence? Does it match the hypothesis? If it doesn't, we drop it. So when you're going to negotiations, how are we going to know whether it matched the hypothesis or not? It becomes difficult. So let legal processes be.
Richard, do you find any problem with the legislators, through their leaders, negotiating with the government for their temporary release after 17 months in prison?
Let me say this, that outside the studio, we have developed a working relationship with charity. Our organizations share a common agenda.
Okay.
And that has helped us to work towards that common agenda, so create synergies. So Charity, as my emerging friend, please, if I am in prison or in danger, and there is a chance for negotiation, please negotiate. Don't abandon me in prison because you are saying it should be legal. For me, I'm asking you, and I'm saying this on air. Please, my friends, you negotiate for me. If these legal things are squeezing me, nze munyambe mwogere n'abakulu.
But doesn't that compromise the system? And the system?
For me, I am saying you go your systems and protect them. But if negotiating is going to help me, please make the negotiation intervention, then go your legal.
And you're going to stay at your mother.
My mother is dead, but my aunt is there. Because the people who were reported to have gone to demand for these people's release, in every office, pictured with Mao and everywhere, were the mothers. They are the ones I saw. And that's what I was telling you about the other thing of women. Which doesn't get seen. They went and cried. I saw them. So if they are released and the deal is you must first shut up in the immediate aftermath of your release, don't feed the story. And the safest place to take you is to your mother's place. And your family has instructions that when they call you, they tell them, I think it was the new president.
Yeah, who said...
Who was saying, they were saying they are not yet ready.
They are under treatment.
Yes, they are not ready
to talk to him.
I don't know whether it's psychological treatment, whether it's physical or both. And so, for me, I am saying me as me. And I think that's the realism and pragmatism that partly informs this case and many other cases. That people realize that actually you can lose a loved one in these things. And somebody goes, and, the children are orphans and what? And there's a question. And there's a question that Charity asked: who is prepared to be the matter?
Oh, to die for others.
Yeah. A very important question. We should not kuchibusa maso. We should not ignore it. Because you can find. That's the first. That's one thing. There is another thing. I have been also, we discussed. We were saying this case has been especially peculiar. That there has been such readiness to get condemned by government, to get abused and what, to twist and push the processes to keep these two people in prison. They get arrested, they get rearrested, they don't, this Jay, sometimes he's taken to his house, or the one of Magere is kept in his house. But this one, there has been so much effort to keep them, whatever the cost. What is it about their case that has brought this gritting, like, you know, the people, whatever the powers, grit their teeth to say these people must be there. Now, there is one person who is not talked about, in my view, adequately in this whole saga, and that is called Norbert Mao. Norbert Mao pegged his political action when he came to the minister, to be minister, to this particular issue. Yes, when he came, he said, that one I'm going to deal with it. I have seen him interviewed, and he confessed that sometimes you work behind the curtains to do these things. I don't know why he has not been why the media has not focused on him a little bit more to examine his role. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe because he was in the opposition and giving us stories, we are still too friendly to him, and we are not examining him. So that is the other thing. What for me must be tackled is the fact that you can illegally detain people for so long in legal detention circumstances. The illegality of using legal systems and processes to keep people detained for this long. The negotiation, whatever it is that influenced the negotiation, and whatever the things that have been agreed, I can promise you, Apple, they will leak.
Really?
They will leak. These things will be leaked.
We will come to know.
Oh yeah, we will come to know. And whatever gets known, it will be distorted, addressed with misinformation and disinformation. But using the legal institutions and processes to illegally keep people in detention, even when they are sick and deny them treatment, for me,
actually, this is a classic example.
that must be, it relates very well to the Janani room discussion that we're having. Directly, they relate very directly. And so, it will be Segrinya and Sewanyana today, but it will be an NRM leaning person the next day.
Okay, I think we'll start from there, but there is breaking news here. Christian Atsu, this was a player for Chelsea. He's a Ghanaian. He has been reported dead. We talked about the Turkey earthquake. He was playing in Turkey, and he is a victim of that 7.8 magnitude earthquake.
Now the statistics have become human now.
Yeah.
Because you see, we usually tend to statisticize death. 41,000, 45,000 doesn't mean much.
Until you know the person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are real. This is real. For me, what disappoints me is the frenzy of me, I said, mine and my colleagues in the development world. It's like this is a bonanza. And I can promise you we are going to have an inquiry into the misuse and abuse of Turkey and Syria earthquake money.
Yeah.
That is going to
Christian Atsu, 31 years, played for Chelsea and Newcastle in the Premier League. He has played several games on the continent, at continental level. May his soul rest in peace. Let's go, Charity. Richard talked about using legalized means to incarcerate some people. And I don't know if that also reaffirms my and other people's suspicion that this could be a political case in any way. But most importantly, I'm looking at how long these members of parliament have stayed in prison. And you, who is well versed with the electoral laws, every time a member of parliament dies, we rush. Actually, it's a matter of law to replace them, to have them, the voters represented. But the voters in Kawempa and Machindi have stayed. I have spent more than 17 months without members of parliament. I don't know if it is your concern, and we, as we wrap up in 20 minutes or so, I will also implore you here to talk about what now this means. If it is true, there were negotiations, what now it means to the National Platform Party, especially after top leaders in the party seem to be divided on this issue of negotiations. The leader of opposition, his name is being listed among those who are negotiating, and we hear of some, pull and shove in the party. Bedwanika made his position
and numbers
clear,
almost staring each other.
So also what it means to a young party like National Platform. You can start from there.
I think you've asked me a number of questions, and I think the first one is the question of legality, and whether we use legal systems to perpetuate illegality. And I'm saying it is a growing trend now that legal systems are being used to perpetuate injustice and illegality. And the only way to heal the illegality being perpetuated through legal systems is by dealing with the issue legally. Because this issue has to be put to bed legally to protect the judicial system, to protect the justice system. Because if it is not done legally and put to bed legally and the justice system is shaken, I have explained before that then I will commit a crime. But knowing that I'm connected to Richard, who is also connected.
Richard is not, has no problem with.
I'm connected to Richard, who is connected.
Yeah.
Richard is an entire boy. All the entire boys are unseated in big position. That's why he became my friend. I made sure Ntare is very close. You have to make sure everyone who goes to Ntare remains your friend. Or else you will die miserably. That's what he was saying. He was saying it in very structured, good English. He's a communication specialist, so he knows how to package his communication. But for me, I know how to understand his communication.
I had avoided this the whole show.
So I keep the entire boy close here for those reasons, because he's seated in Intari.
Yeah.
Now, if we are going to always have to negotiate our way for crimes, then we are going to have a problem. We will never trust the judicial system again. I will have my leeway to commit a crime, and I know I will negotiate my way out. So it has that implication there. Yes, I hear the whole story of 2 years, and it is true. One, it is wrong that the voices of the people of Kawempe and Makindi were not being heard in Parliament. It is illegal, but it is also wrong. And we saw the leader of opposition saying, I'm going to go and ask the people of Makindi and the people of Kawempe whether they are happy about what is happening, because they sent their representatives to represent their views, and now it was getting to 2 years and their views have never been represented. Their issues as they want in Parliament were not happening. That is to curtail participation. And when we talk about electoral democracy, that was a denial of the rights of the people of Makindi and the people of
Kawan.
in terms of participation. So for them, they have not participated. And they are entitled to saying, we need to have participated in these previous 2 years. That is their entitlement. It is their constitutional entitlement. Now, you brought the question
Of NUP, a young party.
of NUP. NUP in itself is now in a very delicate place. It is in a place where they don't trust themselves. And its creation itself was also a problem. The way it was created, it started as people power. Then different people jumped from DP, from where, everybody started jumping. Let's
But
jump.
that's how other parties also start. Remember PAFO and what? And
You know,
this,
you see other parties which have withstood the pressures and gone back and forth with all these things know that there are systems they have built in place. Now, for NUP, they are starting and building these systems in place. And there are people who saw NUP succeeding because of the young people's wave and jumped onto the bandwagon. And now have reached there, and because of the way the processes are running, they are thinking, should we jump off the bandwagon? But now what are the implications? You jump off, you came as that political party, so it means you can no longer sit in that seat
so are
where
we
you
seeing
are.
the true colors of
Politicians, yes,
Politicians
you are
and
seeing the true colors of the politicians that started that formation called...
it's a moment of truth?
Yes, that started that formation called NUP. And if they want to grow it, I think they have big lessons that they have to pick from themselves, and they have things to do internally. If I am fighting with my husband, there are certain things which I don't want to go out. I will fight and fight and fight to a certain extent, except when we know that now, come and buy and buy.
It's now or never.
It is Nisi Daisai. So that is it. I come and decree that he has gone his way, I have also gone my way. Now you can come and ask, hey, what happened? Hey, now we say
you see NUP surviving this storm.
NUP will survive this storm, but for them to survive this storm, they need to think carefully through the process. Because now there is rumor the leader of opposition has to be dropped, and he is going to be replaced by a young Turk who seems to be more allied with the principal. The principal is saying, for me, I did not negotiate. And I am saying that if it wasn't that there was a legal process already in place, there is no problem with negotiating. People world over negotiate. Even governments lobby and negotiate when they hit a deadlock. When there is a deadlock and you can't make a way, the government here negotiates. What have we been seeing in Congo? These peace missions and all these conversations that are happening with our leaders. What are those that are happening about the war in Congo? Those are negotiations. And there is nothing wrong with negotiation if it follows a structured process. However, if negotiation is going to threaten a judicial system, it's going to threaten an institutional system, it's going to threaten a justice system of a country, then forget about the negotiation. It can only be done within the precincts of the law. If it is not being done as per the definitions of the court and the court providing for it, then it is being done illegally. But if it is being done to help the members work better, if NUP is going to negotiate with each other to know how to survive the storm, there is no problem with that. We all need to negotiate.
We all need to negotiate. And Dr. Jared, is it a moment of truth for NUP?
NUP, if you reflect on its formation, like she said, it was kind of a wave. And I can assure you, since the elections ended, no efforts have been made to put up structures in different districts. So it is still running in that ad hoc way. And people who are there, because we have friends there, can tell you that the structures of the party are largely dysfunctional. But this is not only in, of course, NUP. I think it is the confusion we have in the country brought about by our current multi-party system, where as if we are still in the movement system or we are multi-party. Because even in NRM, there are people also who are quarreling there, that the president uses only the party when he wishes. But otherwise, he's not involved with the affairs of the party. And there are those who are not happy that he has actually created the district branches under the office of the national chairperson, well facilitated with cars and money, while the party offices are broke. So it is not only happening in NUP, but also NUP has largely a young group of politicians, and those who never came from that, you know, people like Impuga, Segona, they've been around. This is a friend of mine from, that is who? This guy who led us, no, when I was still an activist, he was a head of popular resistance against life presidents. I was in Makerere. Yeah, Chivumbi. When I was a general secretary for UPC in Makerere, before I abandoned the political party politics, I entered the civil society. Chivumbi was our leader in that pressure group. And we went to Masaka together to hold a rally. We were chased with a helicopter gunship. Those are experienced politicians, but they're also group. Yes, we are down running under the helicopter. We fought. There's a group bombs. Or? Yes, this guy created something called Popular Resistance Against Life Presidents in Uganda. We created a Makerere chapter. So we were the agents since we came from different parts of the country. And I remember former RDC Sakwa was arrested with those flyers in Mbale, was beaten terribly in the Bugema barracks. We had to check him and the whole body was pink. You interview him about that one day before he was later humbled to go and... Anyway, that is history. Now I'm in civil society. I'm not in political party politics. But I can tell there are those forces within NUP.
You think the formation of NUP also makes it vulnerable in such a situation?
Absolutely. Because once I identify that there are three groups that are thinking different, you remember the Tower of the Tower of Babel in the Bible. These guys had a common goal of going to heaven to God, see God building a tower. What God did was to give them different languages. They ceased understanding each other, and that was the collapse of the tower crumbled. Yes. So that is the Tower of Babel that they're trying to construct. They need to talk the same thing, otherwise.
So what are your expectations? I mean, around this storm, will the leadership and the membership of NUP navigate this storm? And
I believe there are going to be changes in the NUP. If I'm to go by what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, there are going to be changes. And I think we're going to see a team that is a more hardline team aligned to the principal at Kamocha, being given certain positions, and some people who are perceived to be either a threat to the principal, because there are also those rumors that there are people who are positioning themselves as being more sophisticated, more experienced in the politics, more statesman-like, and they underlook the president of the party. So definitely you are going to see those, and actually don't rule out even a split where you would see another group. I know many could be there because Chagulanyi is like, you know, when crocodiles kill some, maybe a human or something, they are prey. They'll leave it there for flies to come and gather, then they use trap flies. So when Chagulanyi is there, they get constituencies, they're elected. So without him, they have nowhere to go. Actually, there are those who had failed consistently, but they jumped on him and they succeeded. Okay. So you may see that fall out, and other people may drop out totally in 2026.
All right, thank you so much, our viewers. Musazi Ronald, a son of Nsambya Kevina, and he's in Bahrain. He says all those saying there was a dialogue for the two to be released, it is a tactic to weaken the opposition. So he thinks there's nothing like negotiations or compromises in all that. And he says MPs babaleke badde mu family zaabwe kubanga Bobi Wine tayambye family zaabwe. And he did not give us a name there. Several other messages. Hi Apollo, I am following the dialogue. Oh, he is Sospita Mviri Mayor Makanga in Buyende district.
I know that one.
Yeah.
It's from Buyende.
Yes, from here. Thank you so much, Mviri Sospita, and several other messages. Julie in USA, thank you so much. She says she's watching. Thank you so much for watching. Other messages are actually thanking us for being on these issues. And gentlemen and lady, we only have 4 minutes or 5. Richard, have a big chunk of those minutes.
No, you see, what is happening in the NUP is not different from what happened in the NRM did not start as NRM. It started as one group, then it joined another, I don't know, Kaira or Kasiriye Gwanga, and you know, Kakoza Mtaye, they came to where they are. But also the NRA, the NRA that came is not the same that we have. People have gone away, created FDC and whatever other formations they have done. So what is happening now? What we have not left, the other lie that we tell ourselves is that we are in a multi-party dispensation. No, we are attempting to go there. What still remains is the question of individual merit. It is Dr. Kizza Besigye, whatever formation he makes, that's where certain people will go. And imagine Bobi Wine, whatever formation it is, that's where people will go. And of course, the 4-decade or 5-decade standing Yoweri Museveni, also the whatever the nomenclature they give. So we are still plagued by the issues of individual merit, but also individual objective and pursuit of political gain. So that plagues our. The second thing is the invisible, the behind the scenes hand that is attempting to break up NUP.
There is an invisible hand.
That does not get talked about. Yes, the behind the scenes games of creating division, of misinforming this against the other, of giving money to this one again. That hand.
Is it possible? Like one viewer said, that the whole talk about negotiations could be a ploy to split or to divide you and you?
Yes, in politics everything is possible. In my own heart, I believe there were negotiations. I believe, for me, I totally believe Mao. When he came, he pegged his ministerial tenure on dealing with this problem and negotiating it. So I do not think that it is an entire figment of imagination that you had discussions between LP and the speaker and the speakership entire, that Honorable Mao was there, that the Chief Justice was ready to stand and seemingly defy the executive publicly. I don't think these were all.
Is that the reason why you said we'll get to know?
That's why I said that.
Possibly Mao will come out and
No,
say, didn't I tell you?
the people who were behind and the usual leakers, which is the intelligence organs, but they will keep leaking the details. Sometimes we shall even probably see a picture which they say was mistakenly placed, and we will hear these things. So for me, we also must judge NUP against a very corrosive hand of experienced manipulators who have been puppet managing the political systems and what. So that for me, and that's where the disinformation that we're talking about, the misinformation, this machinery that is very experienced and very well resourced. And finally for me, it is this question of people talking about party structures. Who wants a strong party? These strong leaders who are in positions don't want strong parties. They want strong personalities. So when you say there is the office of the party chairman stronger than the office of the party, it is the same.
Do you see NUP surviving this?
No question about it. The most important thing is not surviving this, is how weak or strong it survives it. NUP must, out of necessity, create some structures. Yes, without the structures, there are two things that plague the political space in this country.
Just 1 minute.
Yes, you have a very corrosive, very powerful, and very manipulative and well-resourced President Yoweri Museveni, who has been at the gorilla processes, and he does gorilla in all political processes, including political parties. NUP must have a strong leader, but must also endeavor to create structures in order for it to survive.
Thank you. Charity, in just 1 minute.
They should also be gorillas in their approach. A gorilla cannot fire puts out fire. So they should learn to employ those gorilla tactics in their way of work. Have intelligence and accurate intelligence. Who is doing what? Because indeed the invisible hand in politics is the biggest hand. It drives what is happening within political parties. But lastly, in terms of multi-party dispensation, tolerance, and acceptability of us emerging as a democracy, we are still far off. We need to work on our democratic path. And we need to work on that path by supporting those who mean well. NUP as a political party has some very good ideas. If you read their manifesto, they have some good things they wanted to do, but their constituents have been complaining. You went into parliament, we now don't see you doing these things. Instead, we see you allying with people and eating along with them, which is what is making the voter disgruntled.
It's a reason for the discontent.
Yes.
Membership and supporters.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Geraldine, just 1 minute as we wind up. Your parting shot.
Mine is to urge the state to ensure that they reflect on the times of Jalan Luumo, stop the torture, and let the citizens wake up. Wake up, understand that torture or human rights violation is not basically politics. It's about your life, it's about how you live, it's about your country.
Okay. He says there could have been a deal between the legislators and the state as they felt it was too much. The justification for this is their refusal to appear in the public since their release, yet this was not among their bail conditions. Nonetheless, if there was negotiations, it was right on their part due to the extreme situation they have been. He sympathizes with them. Greetings to Gerard, Baguma, and Charity. He is Sospita. Thank you so much from Biende District. And we will be closing from here. Oh, it's a long message here. For me, what I'm saying is that before we jubilate for the release or bailing out of these 2 MPs who have been arrested for more than a year ago in custody, let us also thank those unseen people who did a great work to dialogue with the government to release them. This is Sembusi Ivan from Karwerwe. Thank you so much. True, they want a strong personality. I think Judy is saying, is affirming what Richard said, that those in offices only want big man mentality. They always go for that big man mentality. They don't care about their political parties and all that. Thanks for the presentations. The name, you've not given us your name, but thank you so much for being part of this show. My name is Mapura. I must thank you
But
for always
Apple,
being there.
as you thank the viewers, call upon Ugandans to condemn, to resist,
Torture.
to fight back, to shout, to put all their effort against
With all
torture.
these guns.
Against torture. We have seen guns defeated by gunless people. The guns came here and managed to fight because of the civilians. We must all stand as one against torture.
Good. Thank you so much. We'll be back next Saturday, and I must thank the panel and all those people behind the production. Thank you so much. We'll be here next Saturday. Good afternoon, and have a great week ahead.